local people chime in and they're just kind of talking out of their ass, it seems like. And then I think there's a spiritual analysis, there's a societal analysis, because the way people have reacted or responded to this has been interesting to me from all sides of the political spectrum. And like I said, we'll dissect it probably more on Saturday. But your first question, I think, well, I guess we'll wait for people to come on. But your first question, I think a lot of people's questions is, what the hell happened? And was that an assault? What was there? Was there a provocation? When can you use force? When can you defend yourself? When is something considered an assault? Are there different levels of assault? In Texas, there are. There's simple assault, which is a Class C misdemeanor. It's like a traffic ticket. There's a misdemeanor assault, which causes bodily injury. We'll talk about what that means. There's aggravated assault. There's aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, aggravated assault causing serious bodily injury. And then there's, with the extent of that, there's a murder, obviously, and then there's capital murder. So there's different types of violence. And so the question, I mean, you ask the question the way you want to ask it, Tyler, because I don't want to speak for you. But a lot of people were commenting or asking questions. What I've heard just since then has happened is, why wasn't he arrested? And then people made a big deal about the fact that he didn't want to. Oh, that he didn't want to. I thought one of the kids came up. Yeah, we are. We're live. That he didn't want to. That Chris Rock didn't want to file a report, which is yeah, we are. Which is irrelevant. Yeah, we're live. Davi said we're not live, but we are live. We're on it, baby. So it's irrelevant.
Initially when after the deal, there, like, people were just like, this happened, and it was like, was it fake?
They're in shock. Yeah,
real?
people thought it was staged. There's still people that think it was staged. I don't think it was, just by the way Chris Rock reacted, but everybody can have an opinion. People have slowed it down, and it looked like Chris Rock was doing this. Well, yeah, because he saw a slap coming, right. and then just because Will Smith slapped real weird, and so there's another analysis about this. He was laughing at first, and he wasn't laughing when they changed the camera view, and then his wife and their relationship comes up, but that's all irrelevant when it comes to a legal analysis. So here's the legal analysis. You have a right not to be a victim. In Texas, you have a right to use force in Texas. And I'm going to talk about Texas for now. Under certain circumstances, you have a right to use force. So let's just talk about a big picture standard. And this applies even to deadly force at some point. So I'm going to give you a phrase, and then we'll just talk about what that means. The reasonable belief of apparent danger, and is it imminent? So the reasonable belief of apparent danger, and is it imminent? I'll dissect that for you guys if you want, and I'll try to look. Physical violence was not suitable for the situation. It was not self-defense. Well, we'll talk, Dirk. We'll talk about that. I'm going to get to there right now. I'm getting there, at least from Texas standards. And so, the reasonable belief of apparent danger, was it imminent? So, did Will Smith have the legal right to strike Chris Rock? And are words enough? Well, the answer is maybe. Now, the question is, are these words enough? Well, the answer is no. I mean, it's definitely no. Chris Rock, there was no apparent or actual danger for Will Smith. There was nothing imminent about it. He went out of his way to strike. Now, could words initiate or justify action? Sure. If someone says, I'm going to go over there and I'm going to push your kid, or I'm going to push you, and you're standing right near a cliff, or right near a highway, well, yeah, I'm not going to wait to be a victim. I can act on it if I believe that it was imminent, that you were serious. Was it apparent versus actual? And I'll give you a distinction between those two in a second, and we can analyze it. But it's just clear, it's not even close, that Will Smith had no justification to strike Chris Rock at all. It wasn't even, I mean, he's a comedian, it's a joke. I mean, he laughed at the joke initially, which is irrelevant, but that's just kind of my opinion. This guy... It gets into their relationship, and he should have, legally, at least in Texas, he should have been arrested. I mean, he should have been taken out of that place. They should have asked him to get up, or they should have drugged him out if he didn't want to get up. There was an assault that occurred, and it really is irrelevant if Chris Rock wants to prosecute or not. I mean, many times, when I was in the district attorney's office, when I was a DA here, sometimes we have to protect the victim or the complainant against himself or herself, because they don't want to prosecute, and they, for whatever the reasons are, whether relational or they're situational situations, but we'd have to prosecute anyway, especially when you have so many witnesses. You don't need the actual complainant for a case like this. You're on worldwide TV. He did it in front of everybody. He sat back down. I mean, what the Oscars did and all that, that's a separate discussion that we can talk about if you guys want to. And I have an opinion of what I think should happen or shouldn't have happened, but he absolutely legally should have been arrested. And this one's not even close. I mean, it's not even kind of. This is not even close. There was no provocation. Let me give you a perfect example. Well, it's not a perfect example, but I'll give you a personal example. Most of you know that Davi and I have a son on the spectrum of autism. If somebody in their stupidity and vile said something derogatory towards our son or any of our children, but our special needs son, I mean, just made some real ugly comments towards him in my presence, I would not have a right to go smack them. Now, would I? I don't know. I'll leave that up to if God forbid, the situation. But I'm just saying, legally, I would not. Now, could I respond with verbalness? Would I try to say, hey, let's agree to mutual combat? That's different. I mean, it's even worse in the Chris Rock situation because his hands were behind his back. This is as close to a cheap shot or a cheap slap as you're going to get. There's no way he anticipated it unless it was staged. I got it. But aside from that this strike was coming. It was odd. It was awkward. He comes up right in the middle of everything. He probably thought he was going to joke around. He looked at him. He was just smiling moments ago. And then he slaps him. But words are not enough. So if somebody is using words against you, most words, not all words, if someone says, I'm gonna pull out this gun and shoot you, well, that's more than words. You're describing action you're about to do. And if I believe and if it's reasonable to believe that you're going to do it, well, then I can act on it. I don't have to. And I'll give you an example in a second. And I'm going to give you an extreme example because that's how it kind of sets in. So the reasonable belief of apparent danger and is imminent, meaning immediate. And then you can match the force with the amount of force. If somebody uses words, you can use words back. If somebody pushes you, obviously you can use some force back. If somebody pushes you, you cannot stab them. If somebody pushes you, you cannot shoot them. If someone slaps you, you cannot stab them. If someone punches you, depending on the size and the situation, it depends how many punches. It's kind of very fact specific when it comes to the use of force. You have to be very clear. And so it always comes down to not what the truth is, but what you can prove the truth is, actually. And so that's that situation. So we have to keep that in mind, that you can meet the force with force. Here's the example I always give when we used to go out and speak about gun laws and violence and self-defense and defense of your house and defense of yourself, defense of third person, use of force, use of deadly force. So if Tyler and I are sitting in a coffee shop and somebody walks in with a black trench coat on, and then I won't say the word because we have mixed company, and someone walks in and said, everybody in this coffee shop needs to effing die. And then he starts reaching behind his back. Now, I would not look at Tyler and go, hey, Tyler, I wonder if he's got a gun. What do you think he's got back there? I don't know. Let me know what you think in a second. I'm not going to wait. I mean, remember the reasonable belief of apparent danger and is it imminent? Is it reasonable for us to think that somebody might walk into a coffee shop and shoot people? Well, yeah, there's nothing off limits now. Churches, movie theaters, schools, unfortunately, malls, yoga studios. There's all kinds of craziness. Supermarkets. So that's reasonable. Is it apparent danger? Well, yeah, it's apparent. He's going behind his back. I don't know what it is. And is it immediate? Yes, it's immediate. So I would be able to draw my weapon in that very specific scenario, and I would aim down, and I would discharge. I would shoot. Now, in my scenario, let's say I shoot, hit him, he goes down, he passes away, and then we go into the investigation. They look and they see that it was a journal behind his back, and it says everybody in this effing coffee shop should die. Well, we didn't know that. Were we in actual danger? Well, no, we were not in actual danger. Were we in apparent danger? Yes. That's why you hear this term whenever you see these cases come up. I was feared for my life. I feared for my life. That's like the term that everybody uses. But they're just trying to talk about as apparent danger and imminent. I feared for my life because it was apparent that I was in danger and it was immediate. I'll give you a second example. Someone walks into the same coffee shop, butt-ass naked, and says, everyone in this coffee shop needs to effing die, and then reaches behind his back. I can't do anything. None of us can. What am I going to shoot for? There's no danger. He's naked. Unless I think he's got a bomb strapped to his back, which it's not apparent. I'm not in apparent danger. I'm not in actual danger. I couldn't do anything. Knife changes the game depending on your distance. They have in self-defense world the 21-foot rule that within 21 feet there's a theory, and there's some testing, some diagnostic on this that you can, somebody that's skilled with a knife can get to you within 21 feet before you could draw a weapon if you're not as skilled as they are with their knife. I got all that, but let's just say they're 50 feet from me and they pull a knife and I'm going to kill you. I'm not in imminent danger. It's not immediate. Now, I don't have a duty to retreat. I can sit there. A gun at 50 feet is different than a bat and a knife. So again, it's very fact specific. I give you these examples because I want you to know that that same standard applies even to physical self-defense. The reasonable belief of apparent danger, and is it imminent? I mean, when people do this juking stuff and they start juking and try to act like they're going to punch somebody, I don't have to sit there and wait. I can punch, and if you can prove it, it comes down to proving it. You can defend yourself. You have a right not to be a victim in Texas. Okay, so I give you kind of the law in Texas, and I handled a lot of different scenarios. So back to Will Smith, no justification. He should have been arrested. Ask your question. He should have been arrested. I think that was a bunch of bullshit, to be honest with you. And I think we should talk about in a sec after you ask your questions about people's responses. I was fascinated by a lot of the responses of people on media, mainstream media, and from all different types. And I'll tell you what I mean in a second.
Well,
but
I'm just kind of curious. We go back to Will Smith, and Will Smith should have been arrested. I mean, isn't there a little bit of that, like, hey man, you made fun of my wife, and let's just take care of it the old school way?
Okay, hold on, time out. You said something, so I want to make sure I address that. There's nothing in the Texas Penal Code, there's nothing in the statute that says if you make fun of my wife, my kids, now it might be understandable. You might get what we call jury nullification, where the jury nullifies the law just because someone's a dickhead. I mean, that happens. It's called the dickhead defense. He was a dickhead and he deserved it. Okay, well, maybe that flies with a jury. It's called jury nullification, where the jury nullifies the law because of something that gets their heart or something. That might happen. But what you just said is, hey, man, you don't talk about my wife. Let's take care of this the old-fashioned way. That means what? That means two people, let's agree. That's mutual combat. They're agreeing to fight. Mm-hmm. They agree to a combat. Then just like when two people step into a ring, they agree to that. Yeah. When two people go into a hockey, you're from Wisconsin, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, hockey's popular up there?
Oh, yeah.
Up there in Wisconsin. And so up there, and so people are agreeing to getting punched and getting knocked around, punched around, dropping their gloves, going at it. But nobody's agreeing to get hit in the head with a stick. Remember up north, that hockey player that smacked that other hockey player in the head with a stick?
Yep.
He got prosecuted for assault, aggravated assault, I believe. Because that wasn't a mutual assent. That was not an agreed. You agreed to certain combat on a football field, in a boxing ring, in an MMA cage, in hockey. And so in your scenario, Will Smith goes, hey, you're talking about my wife. Okay, let's go. So they agree to fight. Yeah. Will Smith gets him down. And then Chris Rock's out. And then Will Smith starts stomping on his head. Well, now he's taking it beyond.
I'm quite surprised the amount of people, even on the stream comments, people are saying Will Smith should absolutely be arrested. He should be prosecuted.
Yeah. I think that's
they
good.
should have. Initially, I thought people's reaction were kind of like in favor of Will Smith, trying to protect.
Well, they got a
his
standing
wife.
ovation that night. I thought that was interesting. I think people were in shock at first. I don't think people. I don't watch the Oscars. I think that's ridiculous. But when I think no, it wasn't you that texted me. Who texted me? Was it you?
About what?
No, it was Gus, I think. Somebody texted me and told me, man, Will Smith just assaulted. And they used the word assaulted. I thought that was interesting. I go, what? You're bullshit. I thought it was a joke or it was part of the skit. He goes, no, I'm serious. Then, of course, it was going everywhere. They sent me a little clip, and I said, oh, man, that looks like an assault. And the fact that he wasn't arrested, the fact that the LA County Sheriff hid behind the whole, oh, Chris Rock doesn't want to file a report, that's irrelevant. A crime was done in front of any law enforcement officer or citizen can be a witness. They can arrest it. They have probable cause. He should have been arrested. No, I mean, hands down. It's not even close.
Yeah. I think, like, it's kind of crazy because free speech is a must, you know? And we have to be able to talk about it. Like, Joe Rogan was recently under a ton of scrutiny for his content, his words that he said, and he handled them how he wants. But more importantly, what he brought to light is comedians that are being shut up or trying to be shut up and silenced, and we can't make jokes anymore.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope. Look, there's a guy named Carlos Mencia that used to be a comedian. I think he still is, and he used to say some jokes because I have a special needs aunt also before our son was diagnosed. And so I never liked, and I'm going to use a word it's a technical word. It's a diagnostic word, mental retardation. We've really misused that word over the year, and we say retard or whatever, and I hate those words. I really do. I mean, I'd rather someone cuss like a sailor, or like a Nico, and not use a word like that. And he would make jokes, and it offend me because I just wouldn't watch him. But he has a right to say those jokes. I mean, it's a joke. If it gets him money or whatever, that's fine. But yeah, a lot of comedians from Joy Behar, who, look, those of you that have seen me before, that woman really gets on my nerves. I think she's a vile person. I really do. She's unreasonable. I think she's miserable. But she defended Chris Rock. She has to. She's a comedian. I mean, and she's a comedian. Before she became angry and
No
miserable,
way.
she was a comedian. Yeah,
Oh,
she actually used
wow.
to be pretty funny.
She's gotten pretty grumpy since then.
Yeah, let's say the least. But herself, I mean, Kathy Griffin, here's a woman that had a head, the simulated head of President Trump. You know what I mean? And then she got a lot of shit for that. And she defended Chris Rock. She thought Will Smith went over. These guys called the Young Turks. These people really lean left. Here's the interesting part that I did. Now I'm going to switch into kind of a spiritual analysis. It's interesting how people that usually have argued against standards in society are saying that this is their standard. And I don't know what they're using as a guideline. I mean, because remember, just a year ago, silence was violence. That if you didn't stand up for BLM or you didn't stand up for whatever movement was in it, your silence was actual violence. And it was advocated. You can find videos on this from even people in Congress and other things. I mean, we're kind of pushing this stuff. So we go from silence as violence to this is not acceptable. Interesting stuff. I just think it's fascinating. I'd love to be in conversations with these people. So there's a legal standard, then we have a moral compass, and then people are using words like right, wrong, evil, good, mentions of God, devil. I mean, Will Smith said the devil said this. I guess Denzel gave him some advice. He mentioned God's will in his life, although I don't know how far that goes. It's just interesting because, look, it's always about standards, and our penal codes in different states and then nationally give us standards and parameters. And I think we're in a society that is kind of trying to break down those standards and parameters. And I just thought it was interesting that people that normally disagree on a shit ton of stuff kind of came together around this and said, this is the standard for me. This was too much. And I wonder if Will Smith was white, I wonder what would have happened. If he was a stranger, what would have happened? I mean, because remember, Lady Justice wears a blindfold. What does it matter? I mean, so if Will Smith can walk up there before he gets his Oscar and slap Chris Rock, so can Fulano next to Will Smith. I mean, theoretically, because Lady Justice doesn't care who you are. That's the theory behind the blindfold. Remember, Lady Justice is a statue mimicking the goddess Themis. And now I don't believe in Greek gods or goddesses, you know that, but I'm just telling you where Lady Justice, the statue, comes from. Everything on that statue means something. The goddess Themis was the goddess of order in the old Greek times. This is thousands of years ago. So think about the justice system. The justice system in any society, regardless of your standards and your laws, should bring order to your society and everything. So her blindfold means that she doesn't look at your political affiliations, your religion, your gender, your this or that. She doesn't care about any of that. She has a sword in her right hand because theoretically the justice system should be swift. And in many states, and in Texas, you have the death penalty for capital offenses. And then on her foot, she's stepping on a book. That represents the fact that the justice system, whoever's leading it, should have a control and a command of the law. So, you know, when you put your foot on something, that means you're in control of it. So she should know the law and have control of the law to enforce the law, right? In between her foot and the book is a serpent. Now, regardless of your faith, and people know that I'm a Christian, I'm very open about that, but the serpent is a universal symbol. Sorry, I'm not looking at this one. Is a universal symbol of evil. And so the justice system should stomp out evil in any society. That's what it's purpose for. But all of that is balanced by what she holds in her left hand. And that is the scales. And everybody thinks of the scales of justice because it balances all that. Doesn't worry about political correctness, doesn't worry about these mobs or riots, can't worry about any of that. It's not going to be influenced by anything other than the law, the facts, and the evidence, bringing it all together to try to reach that elusive concept, and it's elusive sometimes, called justice. That's what Lady Justice stands for, you know, order in your society, and all those things mean something. And so if you analyze it that way, I mean, Will Smith should be treated just like anybody else. Whether, like I said, whether it was a janitor, it doesn't matter what color, ethnicity someone, I guess now they're saying that, hey, if you don't like what someone's saying at the Oscar, you can walk up and slap them. I don't know. I mean, you have to be very careful of the world you help create.
And it is the Oscars, and it's show business. And things are done on there for views, ratings, get people watching, make more money for the advertisers and such. So, I mean, is there that aspect that should be added into the case here?
Say that one more time.
Well, because
what?
just imagine we were at a family function, right? And your uncle is, let's just say it was your family member that this happened to, and then you come and do the disputes, and your uncle comes and slaps you for saying that joke.
Yeah.
Right. So, in other words, in that instance, Uncle Bob at a Christmas party, isn't going to go to jail and get arrested. Nobody knows about it. But this was on national TV. And so could the slap have gone to the show business aspect of it? Do you think that went through Will's mind and calculating?
I don't know what went through his mind. I mean, we can get into, I think he's a very lost and very broken person. I think his wife has completely, this is my opinion now, you're asking me, right? Yeah. Has completely destroyed him. I mean, literally, if you look at the video early on, he says the joke about G.I. Jane, and Will laughs. I mean, he actually laughs at the joke. Then you see her roll her eyes. Then the camera, at least the version, the one that I saw, the few that I saw, go back to Chris Rock. And then all of a sudden, this guy's pissed off from all hell. I mean, I guess. And then somebody made a comment earlier, the FCC. Now, I don't think that made it on, to be honest with you, when he said, keep my wife's name out of your effing mouth. He kept saying, he said that twice. He goes, all right, dude, all right, okay, I will. Yeah, man, it was a joke. It was a G.I. Joe. Keep my wife's name out of your effing mouth. Yeah, like that. It was ridiculous. It just shows that this guy is completely lost. Now, we can get into, and we'll probably get into at some point on one of the other podcasts, the relationship and why marriage is sacred and how their marriage is. And they have an open marriage, and I guess not allegedly, she admitted to it. She broke their covenant. And she cheated on him with, I think, one of their kids' friends or some shit. I mean, crazy. She brings him on her podcast to talk about it just because she hasn't broken him down enough, I guess. It's just horrible, man. When you really break down that, and you have to believe all that is played into it, right? That this is all leading up to stuff like that. Again, but all that doesn't matter when it comes to legal standards. The law doesn't.
Tina said in the coming years it'll be acceptable. They just set a precedent.
Well, if they don't do something about it. So Tina, she's right. I mean, so what are you going to say? Here's what I always tell, and I've said this for years. When I was a DA, since then, be careful. Listen to this, please. Be careful of the world you help create, because someday you're going to have to live in it. Let that sink in. Be careful of the world you help create, because someday you're going to have to live in it. Meaning, whatever you help create with standards in our society, in your school, in your home, in your business, you're going to have to live in it someday. So, like rules for thee, not for me. I can't stand that bullshit. I mean, that's hypocrisy. So it's rules for us. I mean, what's good for me is good for you. What my pop used to teach me, and both of my brothers, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? Those kids don't say that crap anymore. I guess I'm getting too old. But meaning, like, okay, so we got to understand these standards. That's why parameters and standards matter. And I'm really, look, a slap is a slap. And maybe I'm too skewed because of what I do for a living. I've seen more murder scenes than I care to even talk about. But I'm not trying to dissuade what happened. He should have been arrested and it's wrong. I'm just more fascinated about the conversation since then. I mean, look, we're all entitled to our opinions. You hear mine all the time. I'm not a fan of CNN. I'm not a fan.
What specifically? What about the conversation?
Well, I'm not a fan of CNN. That's okay. Ask your questions. Sorry, I'm cutting you off. Yeah, no. I'm not a fan of CNN. I'm not a fan of the Young Turks. It's a group of people that really lean left, antithetical to kind of a biblical, traditional worldview, which they're entitled to. I would love to have a conversation with them, but even they were adamant about how Will was way out of line, how he was given favoritism. I just thought that was interesting. That here's one thing that we can all agree. There's always something you can agree on. There's got to be a line somewhere. I mean, obviously the line wasn't riots for certain people or certain groups of people. Riots weren't it. Silence is violent was okay. Making people of a certain skin color feeling bad was okay. I mean, all kinds of this and that and strife and division and all that was okay, but this wasn't okay. This wasn't okay. Going and getting on people and harassing people in restaurants, or things happening in schools, or all these kind of. But this wasn't okay. And I just thought that was interesting that this wasn't okay. And it seems like the vast, vast majority of people So I'm encouraged by the fact that we can start a conversation on, at least we have a standard. I mean, many people, and I'm just going to say this, many people that think this is not okay are okay with due date abortions. I just think that's interesting. I mean, it's just worth a conversation. Or the Maryland law, where during the perinatal phase, which is up to 28 days after the baby is born, that the baby can be left to pass, which to me is demonic. But I think that's interesting. But a lot of people, because I've heard them, they were not okay with this slap, are okay with that. I just think that's logically inconsistent to me. I mean, and it's worth a conversation at some point. I mean, what are the standards in our society? We used to know them, and we've kind of erased them. And this is what you get when you erase standards. You get people walking out of stores with $900 worth of shit. You have people knocking over older folks. You have, muggings, and just go to New York, San Francisco, and all these certain places, Chicago and places. And look, there's crime everywhere. In Houston, the murder rate's up 50%. Here in San Antonio, the murder rate's up 30%. So, I mean, look, it's happening everywhere. Why?
Since when?
Since like last year.
Wow.
I'm a brother. I mean, look, when you erase standards and when you erase shame, meaning that everything's okay. Like we've erased shame. I mean, things that used to be shameful in the old days are not today.
Right.
I mean, I just think you lead
Part
to
of the
kind
demoralization.
it comes to demoralization. What do we mean by that? Meaning that we don't have a moral compass of the definitions of right and wrong. That's it. I just think it was interesting. Look, he's definitely should have been arrested. I think they've handled this wrong. I have not, today I was busy. I did not see if there's any updates. If there is, someone tell me.
So they,
what are they
there
gonna do to
are
him?
some formal charges being pressed, or it's in the works. I don't know if it's done yet, but I did see that. If someone can confirm, that'd be great.
Yeah, I haven't looked. I mean, today was nuts for me. So I don't know the update, but
How many people think it was all staged? There's a lot of people saying that it was all staged. I don't think he should be arrested because it was all staged. It was all staged. Let's talk about that.
what did Chris Rock give a statement? I don't think he's talked about it.
Chris Rock doesn't want to press charges, as you mentioned.
Well, I heard that. I mean, that's fine, but I'm talking about. It's not his choice. Remember, it's the state of California. They were in California, right? It's the state of California versus Will Smith. It's not Chris Rock. That's a civil suit. Remember, it's the state of Texas versus whoever, the citizen accused. So it's the government, the state, the citizens through the government saying that these standards we have been broken, and to bring order. Remember that the goddess Themis, to bring order back to the society, someone needs to be held accountable. So interesting. So I don't know what happened with the update, whether they should take his grant as Oscar or not. Look, that's a contract issue. If they take his Oscar, I guess he earned it. If they think he earned it, I haven't seen the movie, the King Richard movie yet. I heard it's good. I'll probably will. If it was staged. Oh, yeah, that's true. Why would he apologize if it was staged? I mean, who knows? I mean, but I don't think they should take his Oscar. That's my opinion. He earned it. I don't think they should let him back into the Oscar group. I guess it's some type of elite group. I think they should kick him out of that. I don't think he should do the introduction the following year. I think he needs to be prosecuted. I think he should. I don't think they should have let him sob like a whatever and just turn into a mess up there on stage. That was embarrassing to me. But I mean, just whatever. He shouldn't have done that, because there should have been consequences more immediate. I mean, this sense of delayed action, all it does is embolden other people. And I think a lot of comedians were horrified by this. Like, oh, crap, what are we saying now? Are we saying that if my joke offends you, instead of you walking out and not paying for the ticket or not telling me something and heckling me from the crowd, as the old days did, you're going to come up and smack me or wait for me? I mean, is that what we're saying is okay?
Chris Rock didn't even flinch or anything. He just kind of... He was like, "What are you doing right now?" You know.
Well, somebody showed a video of it going, so he kind of did this a little bit, but at some point he realized at the very last minute that he was going to get hit, but he didn't get his hands up. I mean, his face was kind of weird, and he looked and goes like, "Hey, what? Oh!" He didn't know if he was gonna. What are you gonna do? You're gonna tease me? Yeah. You're gonna joke me? You're gonna pick me up? Whack! And he goes, "Dude!" And then I don't think it was staged. I don't.
And that's where initially when I saw it, I was like, "That's a WWE thing right there." Yeah, it's like we had the big old wind up. And then, we had the hand all the way down here. And
he slapped him. It was a weird slap.
All the way back here.
Well, any questions you guys have, guys? I mean, just to answer your question, I just wanted to do a quick Facebook Live just to talk about this. I won't dissect anymore. There's more that could be talked about societal standards, about moral compass. What does it mean to be moral? Righteousness, what that is. I mean, we can talk about that on R-Rated Christianity or some of the other platforms we do. But I just thought tonight, hopefully, it's helpful to talk about self-defense, use of force, use of deadly force. Even we talked about that early on. If you missed it, you can go back. I'm not encouraging you to use it. I'm just trying to tell you what the law is with examples of when you can. Look, in Texas at least, I don't know where you're watching from, you have a right not to be a victim. But man, it's real fact specific. And there's not anytime I used to go talk, either as DA or as a defense attorney, or when I'm doing these type of discussions, everybody wants a clear cut. Well, what if somebody calls my kid a name at a soccer game? No, can't do it. If they say they're going to go up there and kick your kid in the shin, you can do something about it if you believe it's going to happen. But no, you can't. Words alone are not provocation. Now, if you guys agree to have a confrontation, fine. Just for some point, what's that? Today I don't know what that means. Okay. Today we what?
Oh, no. That's your son has scurvy.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
I don't know what that means.
Could the state press charges if Chris doesn't?
Yes.
Chris have hit him back. Please look into scurvy to completely heal your son.
Oh, got it. Okay. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. Or whoever it is, ma'am. Thank you very much. Could the state have pressed charges? Yes. The state is the one that actually brings the charges. Remember, the person who is the victim, as we call, or the complainant, is just the government's main witness. You can prove your case many times. In this case, you can without Chris Rock. So yes, the government, the state could have picked up the charges. Should Chris have hit him back? I mean, in my opinion, yes. Could he legally have? Absolutely. Absolutely, he could have hit him back. No doubt about it. Now, at what point? Now, could he have followed him to his seat and hit him? No, because now the danger, he wasn't there anymore. Remember the reasonable belief of apparent danger, and was it imminent? So the immediacy of the danger is gone now. The strike happened. Now, if somebody has a weapon, you can still be in danger, even though they're retreating, and they could turn around and just hurt you once again. So that's a fact-specific, different scenario. But in Chris Rock and Will Smith, once Will walked away, I mean, once he got to a certain point away, legally, I don't think a jury anywhere, would have convicted him of it. But yes, he could have defended himself for sure. Should he have? I mean, I would have, but that's up to him.
Hey,
Willie, your thoughts that the same supporting Smith for his violent actions based in verbal. Your thoughts that the same supporting Smith for his violent based in verbal. Willie, explain what you mean. I'm sorry, brother.
Hey, here's a good one. Joy Zruba. If Will Smith was charged and he hired you as his defense lawyer, what angle would you take?
I'm not going to tell you if he still may hire me. I'm just joking. I mean, look. I mean, it's a problem.
It'll be done with a ton of backing and a ton of loyal support. Yeah. I know that much.
No, look, it's going to be. There's no provocation. Look, there are situations that are damage control, and this may be one for him if he's prosecuted. He just needs to be humble. I'm not saying that we wouldn't, the government shouldn't offer him some, pretrial diversion. I don't want to get into what that is. It's a really good resolution to a case where you can have a clean record eventually after you're held accountable and you do certain things. And it's kind of a restorative justice piece that I brought in here when I was district attorney, but something like that would be appropriate. I'm not saying to prosecute him to the full extent of the law, but man, you've got to set it as a message out there. I mean, this was on the world stage, and I think it's appropriate that I believe almost everybody is repudiating this, except for the wife, Jada, whatever her name is. Her friends are saying like, that's a man. So another point. Sorry, guys.
Is she backing him up?
I don't know. She didn't say anything, but their son says that's how we do it. Okay. I think it's the son that was kind of confused. I don't know what they identify as, but I think there's some issues there. But so I'm thinking about standards here, right? So the same people, because one of her friends, from what I understand, is against this toxic masculinity stuff, whatever that means. And I don't know how, but it supports something like this. I was encouraged that a man still defends his woman. I don't know what's toxic and not, and what's good and bad, and what standards. I mean, when you kind of make up your own rules, it's confusing, and the goalposts keep moving, and that's what our penal code hopefully brings us. That's what for us Christians, the Word of God brings us. It gives us standards and parameters. But I don't know, Willie. I really want to answer your question, Daddy. Oh, but yet expect police to take Rock. Oh, got it. Yeah, no, you're right, Willie. Hey, Willie's 100% right.
Tina asked, could he claim he was under duress from the wife?
Not as a legal defense. That might be a mitigating issue. So his mental status, his mental health may be mitigating to get a better resolution, but it's not a defense. There's a difference. There's a defense to the allegation, and there's mitigation. So mitigation just means how do we lessen it? Let me give you an example. Crime of passion. That's one thing. So that is not a defense. It is something that you get in a jury charge at the end to try to lessen the result. It doesn't happen on the guilt-innocence side of a trial. It's on the punishment side that hopefully lessens your punishment. You come home, somebody is intimate with your spouse, you freak out, and you shank them and stab the guy to death. Well, that's not a defense to murder. It may be, instead of you getting 99 years, you may get 40 or 20 or get manslaughter instead of murder or something like that. But it's not a defense to the actual legal allegation or the legal standards. Hope that helps. Who else? Speaking out, I don't support the physical action. Okay. If Jada Smith liable for leading Will into doing this, if she's being controlling. No, I mean, civilly maybe, but not Miss Castro. Oh, thank you. Will you run for DA?
Carolyn says he should have been removed and yes, charged minimally with disorderly conduct.
Well, no, not with assault. Forget disorderly conduct. It's assault. But Miss Castro, my brother's actually running for DA, believe it or not. His name is Mark, M-A-R-C. So he's the crowd should sue his ass. Should sue his ass. That's funny. Hopefully it helps. Any other questions before we wrap up? I don't want to keep you up all night. This is past a lot of people's. So I'm just trying to read.
Yeah, a bunch of people logged on.
Yeah, I'm trying to read. I'm just
questions.
Well, I mean, I'm happy to read the questions, guys. I want to answer them for you. I'm just trying to keep up with them. You didn't see any?
Yeah, no, I've been kind of asking them as they go.
Okay, well, hey guys, if these conversations are helpful, feel free to request more and different ones. We go wherever the conversation leads. Talk about legal standards. We talk about I do a lot of moral standards, especially on R-rated Christianity and societal standards. And I just think this is, again, for me, the legal aspect and the legal diagnosis of this or analysis was easy. I mean, this was an assault. He should have been arrested that night. He should have been escorted out. Now, from an Oscar standard standpoint, to have order and have respect of your organization, I think he should still get the Oscar because he earned it. He earned it, right? That does not mean he didn't earn the Oscar. That's where I'm at. I believe he keeps the Oscar. He is taken out. He doesn't give that little whatever whiny speech. And then he is kicked out of the organization and he's not welcome back at the Oscars again, but he keeps his Oscar. That's my opinion from the Oscar side of it. If I was running the organization, and then legally he gets charged with assault, spiritually, I mean, they've taken the whole wheels off of that train. I mean, they have an open marriage. He's been emasculated, in my opinion. I mean, she's really broken him down. If you look at their history of their relationship, and I'm not saying this to be mean, I'm just saying this in analysis and making an analysis and why God holds marriage as sacred between one person, one man and one woman together, monogamous. And there's been a lot of stuff in that marriage. I just think that Chris Rock ended up, because he laughed 2 seconds earlier and then he's slapping him on worldwide TV. So there's a lot of problems.
If Chris said that about your wife, what would you have done?
I said, let's go outside.
Okay.
You can say
Definitely would have slapped him.
Yeah, no, I mean, you can't slap him for that. I mean, but you could say, hey, Chris, let's go outside. You want to go outside? You think you're a tough guy?
But so it was a rough joke.
Will, I mean, I don't know, brother. I mean, look, every comedian that hosts the Oscar is going to bust people's chops. That's what he just teased somebody before, and they're rough jokes, and that's the way it is, and they're edgy. They're there to be edgy. That's what they're there for. You know that. It's not the first Oscar this guy's been to. I mean, so I don't know. I mean, there's no excuse for a daddy. This is it. All I'm more interested in the parameters of what are the standards in our society, and I think it's interesting. And I think the point that Willie was trying to make earlier is that the same people that think this is not okay, we're okay with people throwing bottles and rocks at police officers. Think about that. That's a good point, Willie, if that was your point, if I got it right. That was an excellent point. Think about it. So the same people that says you can't slap somebody for words are okay for people that didn't do anything to them specifically throwing rocks and bottles at police officers. That's logically inconsistent. It violates the law from Aristotle of non-contradiction. Something can't be and not be. I hope I got it right, Willie, my comment I made earlier about what your statement was. So again, I challenge the ideology of many of the people that are rightfully saying Will did something wrong, but are okay with people throwing rocks and bottles at police officers, just trying to keep order.
It's just whatever you think. What's truth?
Well, in this world, that's another talk. It's another conversation, guy. Well, guys, God bless you. I hope this is beneficial. Share it with somebody if you think it is, and if you want any other conversations, let us know, and I'll tackle any topic that you guys want. I did. I saw it. I talked to him. Thanks. God bless you guys. Have a great rest of your week. Don't slap anybody.